So guys, in this video we will learn about the request module. Request module is basically used for like HTTP GET and POST request for any website to get information of that website. But remember one thing, it is not useful for to parse or scrap any website. So for that you have to use the Selenium or Beautiful Soup. We already have a Selenium tutorial on our website refiner.com. And yeah, you can see over here, this is the Selenium module to automate browsers. And so let's begin. So first of all, obviously you need pip to install a request. I'm not going into the depth like how to install Python, what kind of IDE you should use to use any modules. Okay, you can use basically any IDE. For example, you can use Jupyter, Sublime Text, PyCharm, VS Code, anything. Okay, I'm using VS Code right now. Okay, so I'll just quickly make a Python file main.py and I'll open the terminal. Okay, and here I'm going to just write pip install requests. Okay, that's it. Now run it and it will just download and install the request on your device. You can see it's saying the requirement is already satisfied. That means the request module is already present in my device. But in case if you are using some older modules, you can just write pip install hyphen upgrade requests. Okay, and now run it. It will just download the latest one. Okay, I already have the latest one, so it didn't download anything. So now let's begin with the basic code. Okay, so we have a beautiful website called http bean. Okay, so yeah, this is the one, http bean. And basically you over here you can see there are some status code. First of all, you have to learn these status codes. Okay, so the status codes mean basically, let me just open the gate one. And you can see the 100 means informal response. Okay, whenever the request will return 100, that means it is the informal response. Okay, if it returns 200, that means this is the success methods, so everything is successful. Okay, then if it's 300, that means that is a redirection. 400 means client errors, and 500 means server errors. Okay, so we will see these kind of codes throughout the video. So I'll just quickly write this particular website in a variable. So first of all, obviously we need to import the request. So import requests. Okay, and then r is equals to requests dot get. Okay, in case if you wanna fetch the details using the get method, you can just write get, or post in case if you wanna get the methods as of post. Okay, so yeah, then now I'll just paste that particular link, and now let's just write print r. Okay, save it and let's open the terminal again. Sorry, yeah, now clear this terminal first of all, and now let's just run this Python file. So python main.py. okay, so you can see it returned response 200. That means it is a successful request, right? So it successfully get the information of this particular website. So that is because of it returned 200 over here, right? Now in case if you wanna find out all the path of this particular website, you can just write dir. So d means directory. Okay, and r. Now save it and now let's run this Python file. And you can see it returned the attribute, boolean, class, and all those stuffs. So if you, in case if you just wanna know all the codes, you can just write help. Okay, save it and now let's run this Python file. So yeah, you can see now we have we have this boolean. So basically the content is basically the boolean one. So in case if you wanna get all the contents from this website, you can just use the r.text. Okay, so let me just show you that r.text. Okay, save it. Let's run this Python file. So yeah, you can see it returned all the HTML code. You can see over here. So this is basically the HTML code behind that website. Okay, but now if you just write a content instead of text, it will return into a bytes. Okay, so you can see when you wrote text, it is returning the HTML file. But now if I run this Python file, and yeah, you can see now it is returning in bytes. Okay, it is same the HTML code. You can see the section tag, div tag, and all those tags, but now it is in the byte format. And now you can also write the status codes to get what kind of status code you are getting. For example, it is a successful status code, so obviously it will return 200, right? So let's just run this Python file and you can see it returned 200, right? So that's working. And similarly, you can check whether the URL is working or not by writing okay. Okay, so if the URL is successful, that means if the status code is 200, it will just return true, else it will return false. Okay, so now if I save and run this Python file, and you can see it return true, right? That means it has the successful status request. And if you wanna get the header contents only, you can just write r.headers, headers, I guess, yeah, it's headers. And now run this Python file, and yeah, you can see it is the heading. So date and content type is HTML, then the encryption UTF-8, content length, connection server, and all those kind of stuffs, right? So now let's learn about how you can do the get and post requests, right? So get request means the website names and /get, then / the file name and the value, kind of dictionary like structure, you know. So for example, if I just write book equals to 2, comma, and maybe toy equals to 5 or something like that. So this is basically the get request, like whatever you are passing, it will show them in the URL. Okay, but for post request, it will not show them in the URL, right? So this is the basic structure. So your website name /get, then whatever value you passed, so that is called payload. Okay, so let's just create a payload containing all the values as a dictionary, right? So payload is equals to, then I'll just write that thing, that is book has the value of 2, and the toy, oops, I think I got out of this curly braces. So now here inside the curly braces, one more key, that is toy, and the value will be 5. Okay, so these are the two keys and values. So now let's just pass those things over here. Okay, so the website URL, then comma, then parameters or params. Okay, params is equals to the payload. Okay, and now let's just print out the text of the website. So yeah, now save it and run this Python file. Let me just clear this terminal and run this Python file. Okay, so you can see we have these two arguments now, books and toys. Okay, books containing this value 2 and toy containing this value 5. So, okay, and obviously this is a successful request method, that is because of it returns some values. So in case if you want to check that out, so you can just write okay, save it and run the Python file. You can see it returned true. That means obviously this is a successful get request, right? Similarly, you can also do the post requests. But before that, let me just quickly show you one more thing. If you just write r.url, okay, so I already told you when you pass some get request, so every value you pass throughout this website will show in the URL, right? So if I save it and run this Python file, and you can see this book equals to 2 and toy equals to 5 is showing in the URL, right? So but if you pass it as a post, okay, so I'll just write post, and post doesn't contains parameter. Obviously it is parameters, it will contain in the URL. Okay, but post contains a data, so data equals to payload. Okay, and now save it and now run this Python file, and yeah, you can see, okay, we did a mistake. You have to write post over here, save it, clear this terminal and run this Python file. Okay, so you can see it is showing only the URL of this website, it is not showing the datas, right? But if you just write r.text and save it and run it, and you can see it is showing those things over here, right? Under this form, the book equals to 2 and toy is equals to 5, right? And this is basically JSON. JSON is useful when you are working with some APIs. So obviously it will return some APIs, right? So the HTTP bin is always returning some APIs, no matter you are passing GET or POST request. So you can just write r.json. Okay, JSON is a function, so we have to write parentheses. Okay, now save it and run this Python file, and you can see it is returning the same thing, same args equals to none, because we are not passing any get parameters, then form equals to these values and all those stuff. But now this is in the dictionary format, right? So let's just make a variable. So I'll just write r_json is equals to r.json. Okay, and since it is returning as a dictionary, you can obviously use the indexing methods, right? So now save it and run this Python file. It will obviously returning the same thing. Yeah, perfect. And now if I just write over here, the key value is actually form. Okay, so you can see this form has the value of this total thing, and this book is the key of 2 and toy is the key of 5. Okay, so I can just write over here form, save it and run this Python file. So you can see it is returning book equals to 2 and toy equals to 5. So if you wanna get only the value of the toy, you can just write form, one more box bracket and toy. Okay, save it and run this Python file. So you can see it return 5, that is the value of this toy, right? And now if I go to the website, and you can see there are mainly a lot of way to get information. For example, we already saw the get one, then we have post and put, all just work similar ways. Like if you wanna get the data using put method, you can just write request.put. Okay, that's it. Now let's see the HTTP. Okay, not this one. Now let's see the auth. Okay, first auth, then we will see the HTTP methods. Okay, auth is basically like you obviously always not submit a form. Sometimes you just check for the username and password for signing and some kind of stuff. So in that case, this auth comes in. Okay, basic auth. So basic auth means it's first of all obviously take the get. Okay, so let me just quickly write over here the basic syntax of the URL. So the URL name, that is http://bin.org, then /, then basic auth, and then /. Then you can see over here it is users and password. So let's just create a user and password, for example DIptam, and the password may be requests. Okay, now if I run it, you can see it is asking a username and password. So you obviously need to write the correct one, that is DIptam and request. But if I write refinder and the password name is requests, okay, and now if I try to sign in, you can see it is showing me some error. Obviously it didn't sign in, right? So now if I just write DIptam and write the correct password, that is requests, and now if I click on sign in, it will show you the JSON file, right? So it is the correct one, right? So you can just write something like this over here. For example, if I just remove all the unnecessary stuffs, and here yep, so here I'll just write this particular URL. Okay, so this is the URL, and now we will do some authentications, right? So for authentication, you have to write auth equals to we have the username and password, right? So you have to write the username first, then the password. So I'll just write DIptam, okay, and the password is requests. Okay, and now let's just print out r.status code and print r.text. Okay, save it, and now let's run this Python file. You can see the status code is 405. That means this is an error, right? So 400 means we already saw that is the error. Obviously you can see yeah, in the status code, if you go into the gate, you can see the 400 means client error, obviously. But why is that? You can see, so it returned this error, that is because of we use the post method. It is a get method, right? So now save it, and now let's run this Python file, and now you can see it is a successful get request. So it is returning 200, which means successful, and it is returning the JSON file. So by writing the r.text, right? So we are getting this JSON file. So if you just write some wrong username, for example DIptam ms or something like that, now let's run it. Obviously to return an error 401 status code. Okay, and it didn't return any particular text because we don't have any text, because it is returning null, right? And now we have one more thing, that is dynamic data. So in dynamic data we have delays, right? So we have delays. If you just go into the get delays, yep, so it will make a delay of a certain seconds. Okay, maximum that second. It will just check whether the content is loading within that seconds or not. If that content is not loading, it will just it will not load. Okay, so after writing the delay, you have to write timeout. Okay, after a certain time, it will just time out the whole thing. It will just return nothing. Okay, let's just do that. First of all, the URL will be the http://delay/3. okay, whatever number you write over here, that will be the maximum one. Okay, now if I run it, so you can see it is loading for 3 seconds, then it returns some JSON file. Okay, now if I write 1 over here, it will load for 1 second, obviously, right? So now let's just copy this URL and paste it over here. Okay, and now let's just use the timeout. Timeout is equals to assume 3. Okay, so obviously it is gonna load within 1 second, so the timeout will actually not work because it is gonna load the whole website within 1 second. So now if I save it and run this Python file, you can see it is returning 200. It is a successful request and it returned the JSON file, right? But what if I just write over here 7 seconds, for example? Okay, so now the content will take 7 seconds to load up properly, but we have a timeout of 3 seconds, right? So after 3 seconds, if it sees like there is no content, then it will just return an error. Okay, now if I just run this Python file, okay, first of all, obviously I need to save this Python file, and now let's run this Python file. Okay, and after 7 seconds, after 3 seconds actually, it will return error, read timeout error. Okay, so within 3 seconds it didn't load up anything, so it is returning and true. So in that case you have to use try and except. Okay, so for example, you made a website and you want to check whether the website is loading within 10 seconds or not. In that case it is really helpful. Okay, and now let's learn about cookies. So in the website we have these cookies, right? So if you want to create some cookies, you can just write the URL and /cookies. Okay, so yeah, let's do that. So /cookies. Okay, and obviously it will take some cookies, so I'll just quickly create a variable cookies. Okay, and it will contain a dictionary of some cookies. For example, I'll just write location is equals to maybe Berlin. Okay, cookies are helpful. For example, if you have an e-commerce website and you wanna set the country by default. Okay, so in that case, whenever someone opens his website, it will just gather the location and it will just set the country according to that. Okay, so in those cases these cookies are really helpful. For example, now if I just write cookies, oops, it should be cookies equals to cookies. Okay, so this is the argument and this is the variable which we created. Okay, and yeah, now save it and run this Python file. Sorry, let's clear the terminal first, and now let's run this Python file. So you can see it returned 200. That means this is a successful request, and it has this cookies location Berlin, right? Similarly, Google has a cookie called 1pjar. Okay, you can use that 1pjar to gather the location or the name of the person who opened that particular website if the person searched through a Google account. Okay, so now let's learn about redirections. You know, there are two protocols, HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, and you all know about GitHub, right? We already have a course on GitHub in our website that is totally free. You can see it is a certification course of Git and GitHub. Okay, so you can go there and learn about that. By the way, so if you just write, let me just quickly write from the beginning, r equals to requests dot get, and here I'll just write http clone / github.com. okay, and now if I just write the status code and the URL, okay, and now save it, and now let's just run this Python file. You can see it is returning 200. The status code is successful, but the URL is actually HTTPS. Okay, that is because of GitHub has the the default protocol that is HTTPS. You can't run with HTTP. Whenever you run with HTTP, it will just redirect to the HTTPS, right? But sometimes you don't want the redirections, and if you just write over here one more line, that print equals to r.history. Okay, it will tell you whether there is any kind of redirection or not. Okay, now save it and run this Python file. You can see the response is actually 301. So let's go and let's just check one thing. So if I go into the status codes and get, you can see the 300 means there is a redirection, right? So since it is returning 301, so that means there is some kind of redirection. So obviously you don't want the redirections. And if you just write https over here and save it and run it, you can see there is no redirection, it is returning null as a value. But sometimes you don't want this https. Okay, sometimes if you want the http protocol only, you can just write over here allow redirects equals to false. Okay, it takes only the boolean value, so allow redirects equals to false. That means it will not allow any kind of redirection, it will just run the default one, that is http. Okay, now if I save it and run this Python file, you can see now it is returning 301. That means now it needs some kind of redirection, and the URL is actually http. Okay, you can see over here, yeah, you can see we have this http, and for the third one, that is r.history, it is returning null. Okay, that means there is no redirection, by the way. Okay, now you can set a proxy. For example, if you want to open the http pin, which we are already doing a lot of stuff with that particular website, that is this one. Okay, and with some another IP address. Okay, we have a very cool website, that is free proxy list net.net. Okay, and here you can see different IP address. Okay, you can use any one of them. For example, if I just write a variable called proxies, okay, and here I'll just write a dictionary of the https, then clone // and the value will be the IP address. Okay, so the value you can choose any one of them. For example, I can choose maybe this one, the first one. Okay, so I'll just quickly copy this first one, paste it over here, change it with the port 80. Okay, so this is the IP address and this is the port. Okay, and now let's just write r is equals to request dot get, and we will just write https clone // http bin .org /IP. Okay, and now we have to add that particular IP address, right? So comma proxies equals to proxies. Okay, so the first one is the argument, second one is the value. All right, and now let's just write print r.text. Okay, save it, clear this terminal and run this Python file. So you can see now it is showing me this is the origin, right? So this is the origin and it is redirecting using this particular IP address. So this is all about this request module. Obviously there are a lot of things to do with request module. For example, if you wanna verify SSL of any website, the request module works similar way like the browser works. So it will just verify the SSL certificate of that particular website, or you can use this request to web scrap any website using Selenium or BS4, or mainly you can do anything with HTTP requests, right? Even you can do a Telegram bot with this request module. I'll make a Telegram bot tutorial using this request module only. Okay, obviously you have to use the Telegram bot API. Along with that, we will use only this particular module. We will not use any other modules, okay, to make this Telegram bot.